Winston and Felix here, and we're in the clouds. And when you're in the clouds, you can think better. That's why we go up on mountains early in the morning, even when the weather is like this. I actually really enjoy it. But I want to talk to you not about the clouds, but what the heck happened on Friday? Because that was like the most unexpected outcome, really. If you look at the data on paper, what we should have had is the following. So we got a massive beat on jobs data. And that should have meant that the market would tank, because when you get massively higher employment and job creation, it means the economy is allegedly on fire. And when the economy is on fire, the Fed can't possibly be cutting interest rates because they'd be causing inflation. Right? With me so far, that's basically the theory. There is Winston. So why does the market not care? Following reason, and there are two reasons really. One is we don't really believe the jobs data, and I'll get into the numbers in a second. And the second is the regional banking crisis is back. Yes, Backstreet's back, all right, you know, that kind of thing. And everybody said, last March, I said they're just plastering over it. And in a year's time, we'll be back exactly where we started. And that's exactly where we are. So you're seeing regional banks again on the brink because their commercial real estate isn't worth as much as it was when they actually loaned out the money for it. And at the end of basically the mortgage for that real estate, no one's going to pay them back. Very simple. They're just going to be handed the keys and go, good luck. That's what, you know, even BlackRock's doing that and people like that. But, and there's actually, I saw a really interesting trade on BlackRock. I'll get to that in a second as well. Just going through the big institutional trades yesterday. It's a feature we're building for optionswatch.io. But before we get into all of that, the one thing that I would do, most important thing I would do, this is where my old boss lives, up there. Can you see that? Really, really nice house. Beautiful old colonial mansion. Used to have nice parties up there. Most important thing, honestly, to do is forget all the noise, forget all the fog, forget all the fugazi, and focus on yourself. Because we can make money no matter what happens. Like the little trading portfolio I run publicly for the community is up 12% in January on capital employed, 12% up in January. With everything that's going on, you might be saying, oh, it was just because the market's going up. No, actually, it wouldn't have mattered. Market could have gone up, could have gone down, could have gone sideways, could have gone, you know, round and round and round as she goes. It doesn't matter. And once you realize that, you see the opportunity missed by not actually making your money work for you is tremendous. And that's why I always say, look, learn how money works. It's the number one skill you can learn. And it is way easier than you think. Everybody makes it so freaking complicated. It doesn't have to be that. So come and join me on Tuesday and I'll teach it to you. Like we've taught, I don't know, almost 9,000 people so far how to actually trade and make money. And there was one chap who just joined us 3 months ago. I just saw his post, his win yesterday in the community, and he wrote, my first $1,000 day. First day he made $1,000. Do you think it was a good investment for him to join the program? Yeah, because he's going to be able to do that, maybe not every day, but for the rest of his life, right? So that's what it's about. It's about making an investment yourself. But my training on Tuesday is completely free of charge. So nothing you need to do. Just go to felixrenz.org/webinar and Winston and I will teach you the simple rules required to actually make your money work for you. So do that first. So let's get back into it then. Jobs data, right? First part of the story. And second part of the story is the banks defaulting. Now, the banks are basically out of money and they're going to need another bailout. And therefore, the Fed's going to give them one around about the 11th of March, because that's when the old one runs out. They'll probably do it slightly before to not cause unnecessary panic. Winston's always looking for snacks. And they're going to call it something else. They're going to call it something like the Stability of the United States Future Save Our Children Fund, but it's really just a bailout for incompetent bankers. And that means that any crappy bank out there is staying afloat. All risk is taken out of the commercial real estate market. And the Fed is essentially underwriting the riskiest crap there is out there. and it's therefore encouraging everybody to buy risky assets. Like, why is Bitcoin up so much? Yeah, Bitcoin ETF and so on, and it's glorious and it's going to save the world and everything else. Sure. But no, it's really because of the Fed. And what happens in the short term when you do this? Well, you get a rally, and it's beautiful, and we love it, and we enjoy it, and we throw parties. In the long term, is it a good idea to remove risk from the market? No. It's what economists call a perverse incentive. A little bit like certain islands that certain billionaires frequented. But let's not get into that story again today. Look how lovely it is up here. Look at these trees. I don't mind the fog. It's because it's actually clouds. So, bank bailout, risk bubble is coming. And at some point, it's going to end badly, because at some point, there will be a massive bubble and it's going to pop. And how will it pop? Not because the government stops bailing it out, but because these regional bank managers have been encouraged now, incentivized, to take on the riskiest crap they can get their hands on and put it on their balance sheet. And people will be doing that. You know what bankers are like? I mean, bunch of lunatics to start with, right? You tell them, hey guys, there is a potential massive return here and zero risk, none whatsoever. In fact, the more risk you take, the bigger the bet you make, the more likely you're going to get bailed out, and personally definitely won't be affected anyway. So go nuts. And that's what they're going to be doing, right? That's what they did in 2007 and then led to 8. We're going to get that again, but not in the short term. So enjoy the party, but just be aware of how it works. That's the first part of that. Now, what about jobs? So the lovely Washington administration told us that they've generated 350,000 jobs in the last month, which of course is total utter nonsense. And I'm not Democrat bashing here, and I'll tell you why in a second. This is seasonally adjusted. So in January, the US lost 3 million jobs. That happens every January. This is not something unusual. And then it gets always seasonally adjusted to be a positive number for whatever reason. So that so far, okay. But look at how the jobs been created in the last year. And Winston sniffed this out. Full-time jobs, how many were created last year? Out of the 800,000 jobs that were created last year, about minus 80,000. Part-time jobs, about 800 something thousand. So every single job created in the last year is a part-time job. Now there's the whole additional nonsense to it that every job created pretty much in the last 4 years has gone to immigrants. And you might be thinking, oh my God, he's a racist. No, it's just an observation, because typically jobs that go to immigrants are somewhat lower paying. Not all of them, but there's a fair bit to that. So again, it tells you something about the quality of jobs created. I have to show you this tree here. Look at that. Isn't that something? I think that's really something. So, spooky forest, Winston says. The jobs being created are nonsense. The economy isn't pumping, not for your average man. Yes, the AI thing is brilliant for big companies. It allows them to make more money and come up with ways to charge people more for subscriptions and actually lower delivery cost. So you have this very, very top heavy and bottom falling out kind of a situation. If you look at the earnings growth, so profit growth, right, which is ultimately what drives the stock market, well, it's meant to. The top 6 companies out there, so the Magnificent 7 minus Tesla, profit growth there is like 71% of all the profit growth of the 500 S&P 500 companies. So without the top 6, we'd be a disaster. Market would collapse. Is that just the way it works? Probably. Typically the top couple of things you do bring you all your returns. That's sort of the law of whatever it is. So not massively surprising, but the real kicker with the jobs data is this, and it's that there is a gap between the number of people who are employed, one statistic, and the number of jobs created. Guess what the gap is? Is it 1 million? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Keep counting. It's 9 million jobs. And what does that say to you? It wasn't Papa Biden's Democrats who came up with the idea, let's screw with jobs data. No, this has been going on for a long time. Every Washington corrupt politician and bureaucrat has been doing this clearly for decades. So the US doesn't have 1.8 million unemployed. No, it's more like 12 million unemployed. And it's been like that for a long time. So the good news here is that we're not losing a lot of jobs in the US. So the economy is pretty stable. And that means potentially the soft landing thing is a possibility. Of course, that's largely because the government is just spending everybody's money for the next couple of generations in a few weeks. About 10 billion a day in debt they're taking on, which is an interesting number. So stability is there, and that's good. Fed bailout money is there. That's good. They're going to cut interest rates. No one cares at this point whether it's March or May or even June. They're going to slow down the money shredding. That's good. AI is there. That's great. And earnings been good. The big companies did very, very well. The little ones, who cares? And what could screw this up? That's what I always think. The doom and gloomer in the corner. Winston, what could screw this up? Any thoughts? Inflation. So the nonsense they're doing in the Middle East is the real risk to it, because if you get inflation back because oil prices really explode, then you get inflation back. Now, the Saudis, who essentially control the oil price, have an interest to not let the oil price go too nuts. Because when it goes over 100, the US can essentially be self-sufficient and pump its own oil out of the ground at a profit, and even export it, which is what happened last time we were over 100 for a long period of time. So they actually have an incentive to turn the tap on when the shit hits the fan, so to speak. So it's not as likely as you might think. Yes, freight rates have gone up 4-5x, and that's definitely somewhat inflationary, but it's not quite the disaster that you might think it is. So Biden can bomb whatever he likes to look strong. Pointless, of course. All wars are pointless. It's just a massive, massive waste of money. But then the US exported $230 billion of arms last year. Yay! A lot of that obviously to Ukraine and places like that. Israel is getting its fair share. So it's a good business. It's a very, very unpleasant business, but it's a good business. And that's why wars happen. It's just money. There's no right, there's no wrong. Makes no sense to be in any of the places pretty much where the US is. But that's a whole nother story we don't need to get into. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of share my Sunday rant with you in terms of setup. So despite the serious face over here, it's actually looking pretty freaking glorious. So take advantage of it, make money, and prepare yourself to make money when the market hits the fan. And how to hedge, all these things. We should be taught this as like 5th graders, because it's that important, but we're not. But you now know how important it is, so take it in your own hands. Check out my educational videos. There's a whole playlist of them. Check those out, and come and join me on Tuesday, felixfriends.org/webinar. Now, Winston, any final thoughts? Winston, any final thoughts? What do you think? He says, let's go and sniff around, hey? Wish you a beautiful weekend.
Guys. Oh. Get in there.